The world speaks loudly, yet the most powerful messages arrive in silence. Tonight, you will learn to hear what most people overlook, the whispers of the divine that move through the quiet corners of your life. When the noise fades and your mind grows still, God's presence becomes visible, not in grand displays, but in subtle nudges, fleeting moments, and signs hidden in plain sight. Many walk through life unaware, missing the guidance that is always around them. Ancient Shaolin masters taught that stillness is not emptiness, it is a doorway. When the body rests and the mind slows, clarity arises. The heart, when aligned, can sense patterns and truths invisible to the hurried eye. Even a brief pause can reveal warnings, blessings, or insights that change the course of your day or even your life. Tonight you will discover practices that awaken this inner listening. You will learn how breath, quiet reflection, and gentle observation can tune you into signals the world rarely notices. You will understand why patience, inner discipline, and mindful presence are not just spiritual ideals, they are keys to perceiving God's messages. Some of these methods are hidden in centuries-old teachings passed down through the Shaolin path, guiding those who truly seek. By the end of this video, you will not only know how to notice these subtle signs, but also how to respond with clarity and wisdom. The moments you once dismissed as ordinary may hold extraordinary meaning. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire, where the path of inner mastery meets divine guidance. Subscribe now and step into the silence that speaks louder than words. Stay with me until the end. Tonight you will hear what few ever do. In the heart of stillness, the world speaks its clearest truth. Centuries ago, Shaolin masters discovered that movement is not always the path to mastery. Sometimes it is the pause between movements that holds the greatest power. They observed the mind as a restless river. Only when the current slows does the water reflect the sky above. Stillness is more than sitting quietly. It is a deliberate opening, a conscious stepping away from distraction and the endless chatter that clouds perception. In moments of true quiet, the body softens, the breath deepens, and the mind begins to untangle itself from the noise of desire and fear. This is the gateway where insight emerges, subtle yet undeniable. Patterns of life, previously hidden, appear. Intuition sharpens. Decisions, once muddled, gain clarity. Mindfulness teaches that each moment contains a universe of understanding, yet it often slips past unnoticed. Shaolin practice invites us to pause, to feel the weight of our presence, to notice the heartbeat, the breath, the quiet stirrings within. Even brief periods, 5–10 minutes of intentional silence, can begin to awaken a consciousness attuned to higher truths. It is in these intervals that divine guidance can be felt, a whisper in the space between thought and action. Cultivating stillness is not an escape from life, but a way to engage more fully with it. Each day, carve a moment for quiet reflection. Walk slowly, breathe deeply, listen to the spaces where sound is absent. The mind learns to settle, and in settling, it becomes receptive. The master's secret is simple yet profound. The world cannot speak to you clearly while your own mind rages inside. True understanding begins with the courage to be still. Breath is the silent thread that binds the body, mind, and spirit. In the quiet halls of Shaolin temples, monks learned early that mastery begins not with strength, but with the subtle rhythm of the lungs. Each inhale carries life into the body. Each exhale releases tension, fear, and distraction. The breath becomes more than air. It becomes a compass, pointing inward to the depths of awareness. To sit with the breath is to enter a bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Begin simply. Notice the rise and fall of the chest, the gentle flow in and out through the nostrils. Feel its weight, its rhythm, its presence. Do not force it, do not judge it. Observe it as a faithful guide, quietly revealing the state of your mind and the stirrings of your spirit. When attention rests on breath, the restless mind softens. Thoughts slow, emotions settle, and a quiet clarity emerges. Ancient masters believed that the body itself remembers the truths of the universe, and the breath is the key to unlocking this memory. Through it, intuition awakens. Subtle sensations, fleeting ideas, and gentle nudges from the divine begin to be noticed. Guidance arrives not as a loud command, but as a quiet insistence, felt deeply within the chest or whispered at the edge of awareness. Discipline with the breath is not about control, it is about alignment. Each inhalation centers the mind, each exhalation clears the path to perception. Over time, this simple practice sharpens sensitivity, creating a bridge where divine insight can flow freely. In the rhythm of the breath, the ordinary transforms into sacred understanding. The moments that once passed unnoticed now hum with meaning, and the connection to something greater becomes tangible, as natural as the air filling the lungs. True understanding begins with the quiet art of observation. Shaolin masters teach that the mind is a garden, and every thought or emotion is a visitor passing through. To grasp them tightly, to cling or resist, is to stir the soil into chaos. Only by witnessing without judgment can clarity take root. Observe the mind as it moves, without labeling each thought as good or bad, right or wrong. Emotions will rise like waves, sometimes gentle, sometimes turbulent. Let them pass without chasing or suppressing. When a feeling arises, notice it fully. The heat of anger, the pull of desire, the ache of sorrow, but do not make it yours. Simply acknowledge it and let it flow. In this space, the mind is no longer a storm but a calm mirror. Judgment clouds perception. When the mind insists on categorizing, criticizing, or comparing, it blinds itself to subtler truths. Divine messages, often gentle and elusive, slip by unnoticed when the mind is entangled in evaluation. The Shaolin path teaches that detachment is not indifference. It is awareness tempered with discipline. To see without judgment is to create a field where insight can grow. Begin small. Notice thoughts during a quiet walk, a pause in your day, or in the stillness after a deep breath. Label nothing, expect nothing, demand nothing, simply watch. Over time, this practice trains attention, hones discernment, and cultivates patience. A mind practiced in witnessing can sense guidance where before there was only noise. Every message, every sign arrives more clearly. In the calm of non-judgment, the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, and the subtle movements of the divine become unmistakable. The world speaks in patterns, and the signs of guidance are woven into the very fabric of life. Shaolin teachings remind us that nothing exists in isolation. Every event, every encounter carries meaning if one is attentive enough to perceive it. A fleeting coincidence, a word overheard, the sudden appearance of a stranger, all can be messengers, subtle nudges from a force greater than ourselves. Divine communication rarely shouts, it whispers. The challenge lies not in seeking signs, but in cultivating the sensitivity to notice them. Intuition is a quiet flame, easily smothered by distraction or doubt. When the mind is calm, the breath steady, and judgment set aside, even ordinary moments can reveal extraordinary truths. A path once missed may suddenly appear clear. A decision once confusing may feel naturally resolved. People themselves often carry messages. A conversation, a gesture, or an encounter may carry insight meant only for you. In ancient Shaolin philosophy, every interaction is a teacher if approached with awareness. The discipline lies in observing without attachment, without forcing meaning, and without letting desire cloud understanding. To sense the signs is not to control them, it is to align with them, to move in harmony with a flow that is greater than the self. Begin by noticing small patterns each day. Pause when something feels significant and reflect quietly on its possible meaning. Resist the urge to interpret too quickly. Over time, a pattern emerges, a rhythm that guides the seeker gently yet unmistakably. The world, once perceived as random, begins to reveal itself as a living web of intention. Every moment holds potential insight, every encounter a message. When the heart and mind are disciplined, when stillness and awareness are practiced, the signs that once went unnoticed become clear, guiding steps along the path of mastery and spiritual alignment. Some truths cannot be rushed. Divine messages arrive not on demand, but in perfect timing when the seeker is prepared to understand. In the teachings of Shaolin, This is reflected in the principle of Wu Wei, action through alignment rather than force. The master does not push the river. He moves with its current, understanding that resistance only disturbs the flow. Impatience clouds perception. When the mind is anxious for answers, it interprets signs through desire, misses subtle guidance, or invents meaning where none exists. Patience is not passive waiting, it is disciplined awareness, a readiness to receive the message when it is ripe. The seasons teach this lesson. The seed does not demand to bloom before its time. Similarly, the heart cannot rush insight. Wu Wei is practiced in every Shaolin movement, every moment of mindfulness. It is the art of acting in harmony with circumstance, of knowing when to strike and when to step back. Applied to the spiritual path, it means allowing guidance to emerge naturally, without forcing understanding or seeking signs desperately. The mind that trusts in timing finds clarity where the hurried mind finds confusion. Patience also sharpens the senses. Each pause allows observation to deepen. Each moment of stillness opens awareness. Over time, the seeker learns to sense the gentle rhythms of divine guidance, recognizing patterns that were invisible before. What once seemed delayed now reveals itself as precisely orchestrated. The timing of insight is perfect, and every pause carries purpose. The way forward is simple: slow down, breathe, and remain alert yet unattached. Move when the current allows, not when the mind demands. In patience, wisdom grows. In timing, clarity blossoms. And when the moment is right, the message arrives, unmistakable, unfolding in harmony with the path of inner mastery. The path to receiving guidance begins within. Ancient Shaolin masters knew that the mind is a vessel. If it is clouded by dishonesty, desire, or conflict, even the clearest message cannot be heard. True listening requires alignment, an inner harmony between thought, word, and action. Discipline is the bridge to this alignment. When daily life is guided by self-honesty and ethical practice, the heart becomes receptive and the mind grows quiet. Integrity is more than moral behavior. It is the shaping of energy. Each choice, each act, creates a resonance that either opens or blocks perception. A life lived with truth, even in small details, harmonizes the body and spirit, forming a natural attunement to the subtle currents of guidance. Shaolin philosophy teaches that the body remembers actions long after the mind forgets them. The disciplined body, the steady breath, the honest word, they all prepare the ground where divine insight can take root. Self-honesty is the quiet examination of motives, the willingness to face one's own shadow without fear or denial. When one confronts personal weaknesses, desires, and fears with clarity, the mind sheds the distortions that obscure perception. The space that remains is open, sensitive, and attuned to subtle truth. Even the smallest act of integrity, keeping a promise, speaking sincerely, or practicing restraint, strengthens this alignment. A heart aligned with its own truth resonates with the universal rhythm. In this resonance, messages are no longer missed or misinterpreted. Guidance comes through intuition, through encounters, through moments that feel orchestrated yet gentle. The seeker who cultivates inner alignment finds that life itself becomes a mirror, reflecting the path with unmistakable clarity. Mastery begins not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, disciplined cultivation of a mind and heart that are fully present, honest, and aligned with the truth that surrounds them. The mind is never still. Even in moments of apparent quiet, thoughts rise and fall like restless waves. Worries, regrets, plans, and fleeting desires crowd perception, masking the subtle currents of guidance. Ancient Shaolin masters observed this constant chatter and taught that clarity cannot emerge while the mind is consumed by noise. True insight requires a calm vessel, and the first step is learning to silence the restless tide within. Silencing the mind does not mean emptying it entirely or forcing stillness. It is the practice of observation without attachment, watching thoughts pass like clouds across the sky, without grasping or resisting. Each thought noticed and released frees space for awareness, allowing perception to deepen and intuition to awaken. Even brief moments of focus can create a ripple of clarity that extends throughout the day. Simple practices cultivate this quiet discipline. Counting breaths anchors attention, turning focus inward to the rhythm of life itself. Observing surroundings, feeling the texture of air, listening to distant sounds, noticing light and shadow, grounds the mind in the present, drawing it away from distraction. Short meditations, even for a few minutes, train patience, sharpen discernment, and reveal the subtle patterns that were previously invisible. The disciplined mind learns to recognize noise without being swept away by it. Over time, the seeker discovers that clarity is not an arrival but a state cultivated through repeated practice. The energy once scattered in distraction becomes concentrated, sensitive, and attuned. The quiet mind becomes a receptive field, able to sense guidance in ways the distracted mind cannot. Silencing the mind is a skill, a form of inner mastery that grows with patience and attention. It transforms ordinary moments into spaces of perception, revealing the messages that were always present but hidden beneath the surface of thought. In this calm, subtle wisdom begins to speak. Intuition is the quiet voice that often goes unnoticed, yet it carries guidance far beyond reasoning. Shaolin masters understood that the body and mind are deeply connected to the world around them. Through years of disciplined practice, they cultivated heightened awareness, senses attuned not only to the visible but to energy, rhythm, and subtle shifts in the environment. In this awareness, intuition becomes a trusted companion, a channel for messages that cannot be measured by logic alone. Subtle nudges, an inexplicable pull, a fleeting thought, or a feeling in the chest, are often the language of divine guidance. They appear when the mind is quiet and the heart is present. The challenge lies not in seeking them, but in trusting them. Doubt, fear, and overthinking dilute the clarity of these signals. Shaolin teachings emphasize the discipline of observation and the cultivation of sensitivity. Through steady breath, mindful presence, and alignment of body and mind, intuition is sharpened and the subtle currents of energy become perceptible. Trust grows through practice. Start by noticing small instincts each day. Observe without judgment when a feeling nudges you toward a decision, a path, or a moment of reflection. Recognize that intuition is rarely loud. It whispers, persistent yet gentle. The more it is honored, the more reliable it becomes. Over time, it shapes decisions, deepens awareness, and aligns action with greater truth. This trust is a form of inner mastery. It is the bridge between knowledge and wisdom, between preparation and insight. Those who cultivate it find that life communicates constantly through subtle channels, moments, people, coincidences, and inner impressions. In learning to sense and follow these whispers, the seeker walks in harmony with unseen guidance, moving with the rhythm of forces far greater than the self, yet intimately connected to every choice, every step, every breath. Messages, no matter how subtle, are meant to be lived, not merely observed. Divine guidance rarely arrives as a command. It comes as a gentle suggestion, a nudge, or a quiet pull toward a choice. Shaolin masters taught that awareness alone is incomplete without action. The body, mind, and spirit must move in harmony with the insight received, allowing understanding to become tangible in the world. Action does not require grand gestures. The smallest steps taken with mindfulness and intention carry the power to transform perception. A kind word spoken when intuition suggests it, a decision made to pause and reflect, or a choice to release something no longer serving the path. All are acts of alignment. Each step confirms the trust in the guidance received, reinforcing the connection between inner wisdom and outward behavior. Discipline is key. Action taken without reflection can scatter energy, but action rooted in awareness strengthens clarity. Shaolin philosophy emphasizes the unity of mind, breath, and movement. Each deliberate motion echoes the understanding cultivated in stillness. Through mindful response, insight deepens and the subtle whispers of guidance become more distinct over time. Spiritual growth unfolds gradually through repeated conscious acts. By following the quiet cues of the heart and intuition, the seeker shapes a life in harmony with unseen truths. The messages that once appeared fragile or fleeting gain weight and certainty when met with intentional response. The practice of acting on guidance trains sensitivity, cultivates trust, and bridges the gap between knowing and living. Every small, thoughtful step becomes a thread weaving the inner world with the outer. In this rhythm, insight is not lost in thought alone. It manifests in life, in choices, and in the disciplined unfolding of the journey toward mastery and understanding. Mastery is born not from rare moments of brilliance, but from steady, persistent practice. Ancient Shaolin wisdom teaches that the path to clarity and inner alignment is forged through repetition, not through occasional grand gestures. A single perfect meditation or a fleeting act of insight cannot anchor the mind or cultivate sensitivity. It is the daily attention to small, intentional practices that builds the foundation for lasting awareness. Consistency nurtures the heart. Each moment spent in reflection, each mindful breath, each choice made with integrity strengthens the connection between inner perception and outer action. Over time, the mind grows disciplined, the senses sharpen, and the subtle currents of guidance become easier to perceive. The energy cultivated through regular practice aligns the body, mind, and spirit, creating a natural receptivity to insight that cannot be rushed. Perfection, when pursued as a goal, often becomes a trap. The desire for flawless execution breeds frustration, distraction, and self-criticism, barriers that obscure the messages we seek to receive. Shaolin masters understood that the journey itself is the teacher. Small, imperfect efforts, performed consistently, carry more weight than occasional displays of skill or understanding. Through this rhythm, the seeker learns patience, humility, and endurance, qualities that open the heart to wisdom. Daily rituals, however brief, act as reminders of presence and purpose. A moment of meditation in the morning, mindful awareness while walking, a pause to observe one's intentions before speaking or acting. These are not grand acts, but they accumulate into a powerful current of awareness. Over time, the mind learns to recognize the subtle signs, the quiet nudges, and the guidance that surrounds life. Consistency over perfection is the path to inner mastery. It transforms effort into habit, awareness into intuition, and small daily practices into a life attuned to truth, presence, and the messages that flow quietly yet persistently through every moment. Divine communication is not a single moment of revelation. It is a practice cultivated through stillness, mindful breath, integrity, and patience. It arrives quietly in the spaces between thoughts, in subtle signs, and in the gentle nudges of intuition. Each small act of awareness, each moment spent observing without judgment, draws the heart closer to clarity and alignment with higher truth. The path is simple yet profound. Pause, breathe, act with integrity, and remain attentive to the quiet guidance that surrounds every day. Small daily rituals, a few minutes of reflection, mindful presence, or disciplined practice can awaken sensitivity to messages that might otherwise go unnoticed. Over time, these practices cultivate a receptive mind and a steady heart, allowing divine insight to flow naturally and continuously. Embrace this journey with patience and consistency. Life itself becomes a teacher, revealing guidance in ways subtle yet unmistakable. The more you practice, the more you notice, and the more you align with the wisdom that is always present. If you feel called to deepen your awareness and strengthen this connection, let your practice become a daily companion. Allow the quiet to speak, the breath to guide, and your actions to reflect the wisdom you receive. Thank you for joining us on this journey of inner mastery and divine connection. If this message resonated, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Shaolin Soulfire, and continue walking the path of stillness, clarity, and presence. In the quiet, the messages are waiting, and your heart will hear them.